I'm Travis Schoonover.
And I'm Aaron Wexler.
And we run WestCoast Volleyball. I'm sitting here today with Aaron, talking to him about his new book that he has coming out, The Inspired Athlete. And I know I'm fired up to talk about it a bit. So, wanted to sit here and ask you a couple questions. The first thing that comes to mind, what inspired you to write this book?
Yeah, man. So first of all, I'm really grateful to be here, especially with you. You know, we've been friends for a long time, and you know, we run this business together. And now that I have this book, I'm just so appreciative for this moment. So thank you, man. I really appreciate this. You know, the whole idea of writing this book, I just wanted something that I could offer to not just our athletes and coaches, but to anyone who wanted a piece of the inspiration and gratitude that we try to teach here at WestCoast BEACH. That's kind of the main thing that's the main reason why I wanted to create this book, because you know, we come here every day and we do our thing, but then we leave and we go home, and I wanted something that someone could take with them, and they could, wherever they were, whether they're at the beach or wherever else they are, they could reference this book and find that inspiration, you know?
Personally, I like that a lot, because it hits home to me. You know, volleyball and our lifestyle is my inspiration, you know, so I know exactly where you're coming from on that one.
Yeah.
You know, so I hear you.
Yeah.
What is this book about? I mean, I know we've talked a little bit about it right here, but you know, to you, what is this book about?
Yeah. So The Inspired Athlete. So to me, I came up with that title because the inspired athlete that's the person I always wanted to be. You know, it includes the champion. It includes the gratefulness. It includes the mindfulness. It includes the connection to the spiritual part of being an athlete, and just the overall goal setting and just everything, right? But to me, the inspired athlete is the person that has the best relationship with the best version of themselves, right? Because that's what we're all trying to do. We're all trying to become the best versions of ourselves in the way of thinking of the inspired athlete, right? So I also wanted to, you know, I want to back up for a second. When I was at UCLA, you know, we saw the Pyramid of Success by John Wooden, and I saw that every day, right? And it kind of gets in your head. It's painted on the outside of the gym. And that inspired me, the great John Wooden inspired me to create my own pyramid, the Pyramid of Inspired Living. And really, that's what this book is. This book is a description of this pyramid, right? Each chapter is a block in the pyramid, and I just kind of go into detail about each block, you know, like love, family, gratitude, clarity, confidence, all the different aspects of the inspired athlete, you know?
Yeah, no, I love that, man. You know, I always felt like when we were coaching before, that was something that you brought out in our kids a lot, you know, and asked them those kinds of questions to kind of get a little more insightful than just, hey, this is how you pass,
right?
You know, but so they can take that with them. And
yeah, and
I was always appreciative of that.
Oh, that's great. And you know, thank you. That means a lot. And also too, you know, like the idea of competition. I mean, competitive greatness was at the top of his pyramid, and I love that, and it works for him. He's got 10 national championships, and winning is great, right? Winning is so fun, and as athletes, we love to win. But for me, I always thought winning and losing was kind of a small part of the whole athletic journey. Yes, it's the goal to win, and yes, sometimes we lose. But there's so much more that goes into the journey of being an athlete. And so that's kind of what I've described in this book. And that's what we try to do here, right? We try to tell them, like, hey, what's your inspiration today? What are you grateful for today? Because the more you can identify those things, the more you can make better choices, right? Because everything's a choice. You can actually choose to be inspired. If you're having a bad day, you can come here and be like, you know what? Look around, look where I get to be. You know what? This is awesome. This is fun, you know? And that's a choice, you know? So that's another point I wanted to convey.
Oh, I like that, man. I like that. I mean, and we've talked about this a little bit, but what does the inspired athlete mean? You know, I think we just kind of covered that a little bit, but as far as that goes, kind of a little deeper into it, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, so there's a message that I'm wearing it on my shirt, stay inspired, right? We actually write it on some of the balls, and you know, instead of competitive greatness, which again, I'm not mad at that. I actually think that's okay. But the message that we'd like to convey, or I'd like to convey, is stay inspired. And that is part of the journey of the inspired athlete. And that message is feel good, right? Feel confident. Feel like you're on the way to being the best version of yourself, regardless of what happens at the outcome of a game, right? That to me is the message, and that is what we're trying to do every single day, along with the gratitude, the mindfulness, the love, the family, all the other things that go into it, the bold action, you know? But that idea of stay inspired, it just means make the best choice, knowing that you're on this path of being the best version of yourself.
I like that. I like that. Sharpening the saw, as we say right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. That's great. So who is this book for?
Yeah. So first of all, you know, I wrote this book for myself because, like I said earlier, the inspired athlete, the idea of the inspired athlete is the athlete I always wanted to be, and it's who I still want to be. But really, it's for everybody. It's for everyone who identifies with this idea of, okay, I'm on a personal growth and mindset expansion journey, right? If you identify with that, that book is for you. But really, I really want the next generation to pick up on that. The kids behind us playing, you know, and any youth athlete in any sport, you know, who identifies with the idea of growth. You know, that is who this book is for. It's also for parents of youth athletes. It's also for coaches, anyone in a leadership role. You know, that's who this book is for. And anyone else who identifies with this whole idea of constant progress. That's who this book is for.
That's great. I actually feel that's where our pro sports are going more and more. You know, it used to be just, hey, you got to come in here and take care of it, but it's much more now. It's much more an inspired thing.
Yeah.
You know, and they're really getting across into that. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and just to follow up, it's also for people who are interested in getting more control of their own emotional intelligence, right? Like I talk about that in the book, which is, you know, nowadays, like you mentioned in sports, the mindset and your feelings are everyone, I feel like, not everyone, but more and more people are becoming aware that we all have emotional intelligence. And really what that means is check in with yourself more. Check in with yourself. How am I feeling? How am I doing? Right? And one of the things that I've learned along this journey is, you know, if let's say you can only give 90% today, right? Maybe you're not feeling great. Maybe something's going on. Well, then give 100% of that 90% today, right? And I just like that mindset, you know? And then the mindset that we share with the club is get 1% better today. So if you can't even get to 90%, you know, if you're maybe you can accomplish 1%, you know? And if you come down to practice and you go into your day with that mindset, you know what, I'm just gonna get 1% better today, it kind of frames everything of like in a framework of progress. Yeah.
No, I like that. I mean, hey, every day we're not feeling 100%.
Yeah.
You know, but you don't take the day off. You come down and you push to what you got
Yeah.
right there. So that's great, man. So, you know, add a couple more on here. Can help the coaches and the parents too. I know we went over that a little bit with it, but I think for myself, now being a parent, that, you know, it's really nice to be able to check into that, because when you're watching from a parent standpoint, it's almost only about winning. You know, I mean, I talk to plenty of parents being a parent now, and I feel like it's so much more than that. You know, and you and I have had many conversations about that. You know.
Yeah.
So, but for you, you know, I know we talked about this. I do feel like it's for that parent. But do you want to talk about that a little bit with it?
Yeah. So, okay. So I mentioned that this is also for parents and coaches because, and there's so much in parenting. You know, I'm not a parent, but there's so much going on in parenting. You might not even have time to get into this stuff for a lot of parents, right? For coaches, as coaches ourselves, we don't necessarily have time to get into all this stuff, right? We got to go over technique, we got to go over strategy, right? We got to go over effort, and we got to look at our athletes and constantly, our mind is constantly working. And we also have to make sure that we're following our practice plan and keep our bigger goals in mind, right? So knowing that we're busy, that coaches are busy, that parents are busy, that's why we can reference this book, right? Or we can share a book like this and say, hey, go. We can even assign a chapter to a player and say, hey, why don't you go check out chapter 5, get some takeaways and bring them back to me next practice, right? Because that makes the time more efficient, but it also takes the burden of the personal growth off of the parent and the coaches a little bit more, even though that's part of their journey as well.
Yeah, I like that. All right, so you host a podcast within the game. I've listened to it a few different times. I like it a lot. I have a couple different interviews myself that I like the best. But do you want to talk about that a little bit and with the book and just tie all of West Coast into there?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you that you're listening to the podcast.
Yeah.
That means a lot. So halfway through this writing process in the pandemic, I realized that I had all these interviews that I was doing for the book that were so inspiring. They were amazing conversations. And since I couldn't meet people, during the pandemic, I did them all on Zoom. And so I realized that instead of waiting till the book comes out, I just wanted to share the conversations now. And so that's what I did. I took those Zoom interviews and I created a podcast out of them. And then what I did with this book is that at the end of each chapter, I went through those interviews and I took one or two quotes from the guests of the interviews and I put them in the back of the chapters with a QR code that leads you back to that podcast episode. So I wanted to kind of create a content loop to just provide even more inspiration. And really, if you got inspired by someone's quote and you wanted to hear more from that person, like Phil Dahlhauser, like Todd Rogers, like Rob Deerdeck, you could go back and check out that full episode.
Nice. That's perfect. I like that. All right, so what are your goals for this book? Now it's all written and it's finally out there for the public to see and read and everything. Yeah,
thank you. So the main goals really are to spread this message of staying inspired, right? That's the main message. And, if more and more people can get behind that message and share it and share that message, that's the goal for the book. I'd love to keep doing interviews like this. I'd love to keep going on podcasts and Instagram lives and even talk in person and share my story of this journey, because you know what, and you know my journey, I wasn't inspired all the time. I that's actually a hard thing to do, and I actually want to share this too. I'm not suggesting that everyone stay inspired all the time, all day long. That's not realistic. We're gonna go through ups and downs. My suggestion is that we stay on that path, right? Because if we are on the path of staying inspired and we falter and I like to call it slip on a banana, right? We make a mistake, that's okay. All right? Maybe we don't feel inspired that whole day. Like maybe we have an off day, right? That's okay. That's part of the journey. But if we can remember where we're going to inspired living. That's the idea. That's the main message that I'd like to share. And my hope, like you asked, what's the goal? My hope is that other people share that message too.
The big question, where can we find the book? Where do I get it? Where do I get my hands on this?
Yes. So the book is now available on Amazon. You can type in The Inspired Athlete, and it's available on Amazon. You can also go to my website, theinspiredathlete.com, and there you can actually pick up this piece of art, the Pyramid of Inspired Living. You can also grab this shirt, Stay Inspired. So I tried to integrate these things to, again, help share with that message. You can also go check out the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, Within the Game, and on Instagram at Within the Game Podcast.
All right. Well, one, I'd just like to thank you for having me a part of this and doing this interview. It was really inspiring just having this talk, actually, and just kind of connecting through this book. And I know for myself, I'm ready to buy it and read through it and check it out. I know my dad already picked up a copy.
Sweet.
So
I love that. I love that.
So yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you, and on a personal note, man, thank you just for being my best friend, man, and just being a part of this journey. I mean, look, we're in our 9th year. It's kind of cool to see, And now that this book is out, I really hope that not just our athletes, but any athlete who identifies with any of the things that we've been talking about, they can get 1% better. They can stay inspired, and they can help create a ripple effect and let that message go out to all over the world.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. That's great. And that's what a good message is about.
Yeah.
It is about that ripple effect and giving it forward.
That's it. Yep. Pay it forward.
Yeah.
Stay inspired, everybody.
Yep. Stay inspired.